Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Fill PCI SAQs yourself, and we'll continue our journey of filling the SAQA. And you can watch my previous two videos on how to fill the initial sections of the document, and also the previous requirements, which is requirement 2 and also requirement 3. So I talked about both of these in detail in the previous videos. Today we are going to touch upon requirement 6, which is maintaining a vulnerability management program. Very, very important. And also requirement 8, which is access control measures, so basic information security controls and very rudimentary information security controls. This is also going to be a very lengthy video, so stay with me. And yeah, this will require some visiting some additional resources on the internet, so I have Google opened already. So yeah, let's get started. So for requirement 6, as you can see, it talks about maintaining a vulnerability management program. So specifically it talks about developing and maintaining secure systems and software, right? So this basically applies to your applicable infrastructure and your applicable applications. So any applications that store, process, or transmit cardholder data, or any infrastructure components, APIs, if you're on AWS, like Lambda functions, EC2 machines, Azure VMs, any infrastructure components, and also, applications, right? So web applications, non-web applications, whatever. So you can see here, so requirement 6.3, it talks about security vulnerabilities are identified and managed as follows. New security vulnerabilities are identified using industry recognized sources for security vulnerability information, including alerts from international and national CERTs, so computer emergency response teams. And it talks about assigning vulnerabilities or risk ranking. So typically in the form of like a likelihood and impact. So the likelihood of that vulnerability being found in the wild, for example, and the impact of that on that specific system or application, and the impact of basically data being misused from that, right? And then the specific requirement is like risk rankings should identify at a minimum all vulnerabilities considered to be high risk or critical to the environment. Now, this is so basically you'll have to maintain policies and procedures around this. As you can see, the QSAs are expected to examine all of these, but then you'll also have to keep all of the all of these vulnerability reports. All right. So if anybody, even though this is a self-assessment questionnaire, you are not expected to have like an on-site audit year on year. But if anybody ever asks for this, so you should have the vulnerability scanning reports ready, right? So policies and procedures will have to be created, of course, and reports need to be maintained. Now, if I have to cut to the chase, right? So a lot of the companies basically utilize a tool for this, and that is essential for this. So if you have let's say external public facing web applications or web servers which basically are involved in the storing, processing, or transmission of cardholder data. Not storing is typically done in a database, storage servers, etc., but typically transmission or processing, those external kind of IP addresses, and if you have any internal infrastructure components, so everything needs to be scanned. And I am going to I think I mentioned in the previous video as well, I am going to create a very detailed video on maintaining an asset inventory of all of these different components. But basically, whatever is in the scope of your PCI DSS, irrespective of whether it's external facing, internal infrastructure components, everything needs to be vulnerability scanned. And you need to basically utilize a tool for that. Now, there are many open source tools, and there are many like paid enterprise tools as well. So you can make use of all of those. No, I'm not marketing kind of any specific tool here, but for example, I've seen companies using, for example, OpenVS vulnerability scanner. So VSBone, sorry, not OpenVS, VSBone. Greenbone. So there is Greenbone as well. You can see here. So there's, just kind of an example here, and then you have like if you're using things like GitHub, for example. So you have some off-the-shelf solutions from GitHub as well. So you have open source, you have GitHub kind of vulnerability scanners. So you have documents here. So you can basically scan for vulnerabilities at both the code level and the infrastructure level. For any code residing in GitHub, you can use any of the scanning tools that GitHub provides, and you can make use of. And there are commercial tools like Tenable, Nessus. So they provide extensive vulnerability management tools for but of course these are enterprise and paid versions. So you can use all of these, and they literally provide you like reports which does all of these things for you. But it is good, even though the SAQ does not mention that you need to do this on a quarterly basis, but quarterly vulnerability scans has been a PCI requirement. So it's always better to have a quarterly vulnerability scanning schedule, not just from a compliance perspective, but also from a security perspective. So it's really important. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to find example vulnerability assessment report. Let's see if we find something. Okay, so let's say purple SAQ, right? So yeah, you can see here. So scan results. So you see here risk assessment. You see. So you have critical severity, high severity, medium severity, low severity, etc. And so these reports, so they'll find these kind of vulnerabilities in your applications and infrastructure, and they'll mention what the description is, and what the solution is. How many times has this been found in your environment, and of course they'll provide a solution, right? So they'll not fix it for you. You'll have to go ahead and upgrade to Mozilla Firefox version 64.0 if you're using Mozilla, for example. But you get the point. And so every quarter, you'll have to run these scans. You'll have to whatever vulnerabilities are critical to your environment. You can see here all vulnerabilities considered to be high risk or critical. At least the high risk or critical should be mandatorily remediated in your environment. And yeah, that's basically it. How did I forget the name of that OpenBone VS vulnerability? OpenVS. I'm so sorry. I don't know why. Greenbone. Yeah, I think I showed this, right? Yeah, so I think it's the same thing. Greenbone vulnerability scanner. So yeah, organizations just use this. And in terms of policies and procedures, I've already shown in the earlier videos how you can get to that. But just open ChatGPT or any other Gen AI kind of tool, and just mention like your organization's environment, in what capacity do you store, process, or transmit cardholder data, and just type in, write a policy or procedure related to, PCI DSS 6.3.1, and it'll spit that out for you. I've shown this in my previous video regarding, I think, requirement 2 or requirement 3. So feel free to go ahead and check that video. Yeah, so I think this is fine. Now you can see here that it mentions that this requirement is not achieved by, nor it is the same as vulnerability scans performed for requirements. So this is about identifying new security vulnerabilities. But then again, like, if you are not a security company, I mean, this is like, way too much overkill for me. And these companies are there just to do that for you. So it's fine, if you just keep vulnerability scanning reports. Companies like MITRE CV database. So, I mean, they do this for you. So if you see MITRE CV, so you can see here. So if we go back here, so if we see MITRE CV, yeah, so this, these kind of companies are, so CV is common vulnerability enumeration, so list of vulnerabilities basically. Their sole purpose in life is to create like a list of all vulnerabilities, right? So I mean, we as companies, we don't need to do this separately. That's about it basically. Okay. Yeah, all system components are, so 6.3.3, all system components are protected from known vulnerabilities by installing applicable security patches updates as follows. Critical or high security patches are installed within 1 month of release. So taking an example of that report, let's go to that report. Let's go to that report. So critical, right? So let's say, so this one, you can see here, so this company was using, let's say, Windows version 10, and there has been a vulnerability found, and the solution is this, right? So apply security update this one, so knowledge base this one, and so you can find this in the Microsoft website if you search with this security patches. So since this has been released already, you'll have to apply it within 1 month of that release. Now, since your environment has just found this one, you'll have to apply it basically as soon as possible within 1 month of release. So they'll compare. You can see here. So expected testing, compare list of security patches installed to recent vendor patch lists. So let's say your vulnerability was found today, which is the 14th of September, and let's say this patch is already published by Microsoft, so you'll have to apply it. I mean, even if this patch was published like 2-3 months ago, I mean, in your environment you have scanned it only now and you found it only now, so you will have to apply it within 1 month. Okay, but then there's one important thing. It is not essential that you patch only after vulnerabilities are found, right? I mean, so if you receive like vendor update email, so if you use Microsoft systems, for example, and if you receive like vendor updates about security patches being available, hey, apply this patch immediately, you gotta do that as well. Within 1 month of receiving that email, right? So of course, after testing whether the patch, to make sure that patch does not adversely affect your systems and the dependencies, but then you can take that route as well, basically. All right. So now 6.4, and depending on whether you have this um, um, in place with compensating controls. Compensating controls, don't bother about it now. I'll create a separate video. Not applicable, not in place. So same like exactly the same way I mentioned in my previous videos. So you just put it in place. Not applicable, not in place. 6.3. So yeah, for 6.3 you can sorry 6.4, public facing web applications are protected against attacks. So for SAQA, requirement 6.4.3 applies to a merchant's website that includes a third-party service provider's payment processor's embedded payment page form, for example an inline frame or iframe. So small merchants or service providers, whoever uses companies like Stripe, Braintree, and other processors, like, so they typically embed their iframes onto the web checkout form, where customers actually input the cardholder data, right? So that they use like an iframe. So if you're using a third-party service provider, so this is applicable for you. And but again, so um, this should be maintained by both the third party service provider and you. So you'll have to get your third party service providers attestation of compliance as well, to see whether they have checked these boxes or not. But you'll also have to if your web browser uses any payment page scripts that are executed, that are loaded in the consumer's browser and executed. But if your web page is designed, if your web checkout form or your web page is not designed to do that, then you can just put not applicable. But if it's designed to do that, then you'll have to do all of this. You see, a method is implemented to confirm that each script is authorized. A method is implemented to assure the integrity of each script. An inventory of all scripts is maintained with written justification as to why it's necessary. So basically, every script that you are loading on the consumer's browser has to be legitimate. You need to have ways to make sure it's legitimate. Typically, it's done by processes of hashing, checksums, and all that to maintain integrity. Plus, you'll have to maintain the inventory of all scripts. So your developers will understand all of this. You'll have to basically do that. I mean, honestly, again, the payment processor typically takes care of this. But if your web page does that, you'll have to make sure this is the case. Yeah, so you can see here this applies to all scripts loaded from either your environment, either the entity's environment, and scripts also loaded from third and fourth parties. So your third party service provider like Stripe, Braintree, etc., whatever they use, plus also if they utilize any other party, so that means the fourth party, in order to help them with their payment processing. So those need to come here as well. Okay, so yeah, I'm just thinking. I think I'll take like the access control in a separate video, because this is already 18 minutes. So even though at the start of the video I had mentioned like I'll take both, but I think let's keep requirement 8 for a separate video, because I think that goes really long. I think that's very comprehensive, so I think I'll park that for a later video. That's it for this video. I'm just thinking if I missed anything. And again, I don't really prep for all of these videos, and I really want to help the community, and just talking about these things purely from experience. Lots of tools there. I showed a different tool, and there's like this tool called Aikido, also used for scanning, software scanning, platform for code security. And you have lots of different tools. You have Tenable, Nexus. You have Qualys for external vulnerability scanning. Qualys vulnerability scanning. Yeah, lots of tools, vulnerability management. Yeah, and then there are vendors who provide this solution as well. So I think you have a lot of options. Just type in open source vulnerability scanners and open source vulnerability scanner, and you'll get the list of so OWASP is basically Open Web Application Security Project. So you can see here the list of all these scanners which are open source. You can see, so a lot of them are free, but they have limited capabilities, but maybe it works for your environment, right? So no harm trying these out. That's it for this video. I hope it was helpful, and I am going to stop it. I think this is it for this video. Thank you so much, and always feel free to ask any questions in the channel, and I'll be most happy to answer. Thanks again, and have a marvelous rest of the day ahead. Bye.